I want to tell you about a man named Richard. Richard was 67 years old, retired engineer, non-smoker. He hadn't touched alcohol in 15 years. Every morning at 7 a.m., he laced up his sneakers, walked out his front door, and went for a run. He had done this for 22 years without missing a single week. His neighbors admired him. His doctor called him a model patient. His blood pressure was good. His cholesterol was controlled. By every visible measure, Richard was doing everything right. He died on a Tuesday morning, on the sidewalk, 3 blocks from his house. The autopsy told a story nobody expected. It wasn't that Richard's heart was weak. It was that the way he was exercising, the specific habits he had built over 2 decades, had been quietly loading pressure onto his cardiovascular system in ways that finally, on that Tuesday morning, became too much to survive. I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. I'm a cardiologist. I have spent over 25 years in clinical practice and cardiac research, and I have reviewed more exercise-related cardiac events than I care to count. And I can tell you this with complete certainty. Most of those cases were not bad luck. They were the result of specific, identifiable mistakes that people, good, health-conscious people, were making because nobody had ever told them the truth. Here is the truth that most doctors don't have time to explain in a 15-minute appointment. Exercise after 60 is not the same as exercise at 40. The rules change. The risks change. And if you keep following the advice designed for a younger cardiovascular system without understanding what is happening inside your body right now, you may be exercising your way toward the very event you are trying to prevent. By the end of this video, I'm going to give you a clear, step-by-step protocol, what I call the safe exercise framework, that addresses every one of these risks. The third mistake I'll share with you is the one that surprises my patients the most. It's also the one responsible for the majority of exercise-related cardiac events in people over 60. Stay with me. What you learn in the next few minutes could be the most important health information you receive this year. Before we get into the specific mistakes, you need to understand something fundamental, something most fitness advice completely ignores. After 60, your cardiovascular system undergoes changes that are not visible from the outside. You may feel strong, you may feel capable, and you may be absolutely right, but inside, several critical shifts are happening simultaneously. First, your arterial walls stiffen. This is called arteriosclerosis, not atherosclerosis, which is plaque buildup, but a separate process entirely. The elastic fibers in your artery walls gradually lose their flexibility. Think of a garden hose that's been left in the sun for 20 years. It still carries water, but it no longer stretches and recoils the way it once did. Your arteries are the same. When your heart pumps during exercise, those stiff walls can't absorb and distribute the pressure as efficiently as they could at 40. Second, your heart's electrical system becomes less reliable. The nodes and pathways that regulate your heart rhythm, the ones that keep everything synchronized, they become more prone to brief disruptions under physical stress. This is why arrhythmias, irregular heartbeats, become far more common during exercise in people over 60. Third, and this is the one most people have never heard of, your cardiovascular response time slows down. When you go from rest to exertion, your heart rate and blood pressure need to rise quickly and precisely. In a younger heart, that adjustment happens in seconds. In a heart over 60, especially one that has any degree of underlying disease, even disease that has never produced a single symptom, that adjustment is slower and less coordinated. The result is a window of vulnerability. A brief period during the transition from rest to exertion, and again from exertion back to rest, when the cardiovascular system is under disproportionate stress. Most exercise-related cardiac events happen in exactly those windows. But here is what's important. None of this means you should stop exercising. Absolutely not. Exercise remains one of the most powerful cardiovascular medicines available to you. What it means is that how you exercise, the specific habits surrounding your workout, matters enormously, far more than most people realize. So let's go through the mistakes. one by one. I want you to imagine a rubber band that has been sitting in a cold drawer for months. If you grab it and stretch it to its full length immediately, it snaps. But if you warm it gently in your hands first, it stretches perfectly. Your cardiovascular system, after 60, is that rubber band. One of the most consistent patterns I see in exercise-related cardiac events is what I call the cold start. A person wakes up, gets dressed, walks out the door, and immediately begins exercising at moderate or high intensity. No gradual warm-up, no transitional period, just 0 to 60. That sudden demand on a cardiovascular system that is still in its resting state is one of the most dangerous moments in an older adult's day. Here's what happens biologically. At rest, a large portion of your blood is pooled in your digestive organs and peripheral tissues. When you begin intense exercise without warming up, your muscles demand enormous blood flow almost instantly. Your heart rate jumps, your blood pressure spikes, but your blood vessels haven't had time to dilate and redistribute blood appropriately. The result is a sudden and extreme pressure differential. Too much demand, too little preparation. In a study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, researchers found that the rate of cardiac events during exercise was significantly higher in the first 5 minutes of activity, particularly in adults over 55 who skipped or abbreviated their warm-up period. Richard, the man I told you about at the beginning, he told his wife every morning that he needed to get moving and would warm up along the way. He never did. The fix is specific, not vague. A proper warm-up for someone over 60 should last a minimum of 10 minutes, not a slow version of your intended exercise, an entirely different type of movement, walking at a gentle pace, slow arm circles, light dynamic stretching. Your goal in those 10 minutes is simple. Coax your blood pressure up gradually, signal to your blood vessels to begin dilating, and give your heart rate time to rise in a controlled, coordinated way. 10 minutes, every single time. No exceptions, no shortcuts. But there's something else happening during exercise that most people never think about, and it has nothing to do with how fast you're moving or how long you've been going. It's about a moment so ordinary, so automatic, that you've probably never once noticed you're doing it. This one is harder to talk about, because it's not a habit that comes from laziness. It comes from something most people would call admirable: toughness, determination, the refusal to quit. And in the context of exercise after 60, that refusal to quit can be fatal. Here is the cultural message that millions of people have absorbed over decades of fitness culture. Push through. No pain, no gain. Your body is telling you to stop because it's weak, not because something is wrong. That message is wrong. And after 60, it can kill you. The cardiovascular system communicates through symptoms: chest tightness, jaw pain, unusual shortness of breath, dizziness, a sense of pressure or heaviness in the upper body, sudden nausea, or an unexplained feeling that something is very wrong. These are not signs of weakness. They are clinical warning signals that your heart is under more stress than it can safely handle. I had a patient named Margaret, 71 years old, former school teacher. She had been attending the same aerobics class for 15 years and was proud of never missing a session. One afternoon during class, she felt what she described as a strange tightness in her jaw and a sensation of pressure across her chest. She told herself it was probably reflux. She kept going. She finished the class. She drove herself to the pharmacy to buy antacids. On the way home, she pulled over because she could no longer ignore what her body was telling her. She called emergency services. She had been in the middle of a heart attack for over an hour. She survived, but only just. When I spoke to her in the hospital, she said, "I just didn't think it was my heart. I thought I was being dramatic." This is one of the most important things I can tell you. After 60, any unexplained symptom during exercise, any sensation that feels different from normal exertion, deserves immediate attention. Stop what you are doing. Sit down. If the symptom does not resolve within 2 to 3 minutes of rest, Call emergency services. Do not drive yourself. Do not finish the class. The consequences of stopping during a workout that turned out to be nothing are zero. The consequences of pushing through a cardiac event are catastrophic. Teach yourself a simple rule before every workout. Ask yourself, do I feel anything unusual today? A slightly irregular heartbeat? Unusual fatigue beyond what a bad night's sleep would explain? Mild chest discomfort that you'd normally brush off? These are reasons to skip that day's session and speak to your doctor. Your heart is not being dramatic, it is talking to you. Now, all of that is important. But there is still one mistake we haven't reached yet, the one I promised you. And I need you to pay very close attention to this next part. Have you ever noticed that when you lift something heavy, a bag of groceries, a grandchild, a piece of furniture, you tend to hold your breath? Or that when you strain during a difficult movement, breathing stops automatically? That's called the Valsalva maneuver, and it creates a pressure event inside your chest that your cardiovascular system, at 60 and beyond, is not designed to handle safely. Here is the exact mechanism. When you hold your breath and bear down, straining against a closed airway, the pressure inside your chest and abdomen rises sharply. That rise in pressure compresses the large veins returning blood to your heart. Less blood gets in. Temporarily, cardiac output drops. Then, when you release the breath, blood rushes back to the heart suddenly, producing a dramatic spike in blood pressure. In a 35-year-old with healthy elastic arteries, the system handles this without difficulty. In a 65-year-old with any degree of arterial stiffness or underlying plaque, that sudden pressure spike can rupture a vulnerable spot in an artery. It can dislodge plaque. It can trigger a dangerous arrhythmia. This is not theoretical. A 2019 analysis published in Circulation reviewed cases of exercise-related cardiovascular events and found that sustained breath-holding during resistance activities was one of the most consistently identified behaviors in events involving people over 60. And here is what makes this mistake so insidious. It happens not just in the gym. It happens when you push yourself up from a low chair, when you carry groceries up a flight of stairs, when you work in the garden, when you push a lawnmower. Any moment of physical exertion where you instinctively clamp down on your breath. The solution is specific and learnable, but it takes practice. It is called rhythmic breathing, and you need to engrave it into your muscle memory before you find yourself in a moment of exertion. The rule is this: exhale on the exertion. When you push, lift, pull, or strain, breathe out, always, without exception. If you are lifting a weight, you exhale as you lift. If you are pushing yourself out of a chair, you exhale as you rise. If you are carrying something heavy, you breathe continuously. In through the nose, out through the mouth, never stopping. Practice this now, right where you are. Sit forward slightly in your chair, place your hands on your knees, and push yourself upright while deliberately exhaling. Feel the difference. That breath out is protecting your cardiovascular system from a pressure spike it cannot safely absorb. This one habit alone, exhaling on exertion, could prevent more exercise-related cardiac events in people over 60 than almost any other single change. But here's where it gets complicated. Because even if you master your breathing, even if you warm up perfectly and listen to every signal your body sends, there is a risk that none of those things can protect you against. A risk that is completely silent, completely invisible, and sitting inside the chests of millions of people who are exercising right now with no idea it's there. Let me be honest with you about something the fitness industry does not like to say out loud. High-intensity interval training, maximum heart rate challenges, competitive sporting events, vigorous group fitness classes. These activities carry a genuinely elevated cardiovascular risk for people over 60 who have not had a recent comprehensive cardiac evaluation. I am not saying do not exercise hard. I am saying know what you are working with before you push hard. Here is the problem. Coronary artery disease, blockages in the arteries that supply your heart, can be completely silent. No symptoms, no warning, no clue. Studies using coronary CT angiography on completely asymptomatic adults over 60 consistently find significant disease in a substantial proportion of people who had no idea anything was there. When you push your heart to high intensity, when your heart rate surges to 85 or 90% of its maximum, the demand for blood flow through those coronary arteries spikes dramatically. If there is a significant blockage present, one that never caused symptoms during your ordinary daily activities, that moment of peak demand may be the first time the blockage becomes clinically significant. And clinically significant during high-intensity exercise does not mean chest pain. It can mean sudden cardiac arrest. I had a patient named Gerald, 64 years old, former college athlete, extremely fit by any external measure. He had joined a local competitive cycling group and was keeping up with men 15 years younger than him. He was proud of it. He had no symptoms. His resting blood pressure was normal. During a Saturday morning ride, while accelerating on a climb, he collapsed. His cycling companions started CPR immediately. He was helicoptered to my hospital. We found a 90% blockage in his left anterior descending artery, a blockage so significant it is sometimes called the widowmaker, that had never produced a single symptom under ordinary conditions. Gerald survived because his companions were trained in CPR and because help arrived quickly. He was extraordinarily lucky. What a comprehensive cardiac evaluation before resuming high-intensity exercise would have found that blockage. What it would have allowed, treatment before the crisis. If you are over 60 and you are planning to begin or resume vigorous exercise, running, cycling, competitive sports, high-intensity classes, please see your cardiologist first. Ask specifically for an exercise stress test. It takes less than an hour. It could be the most important hour you spend this year. And yet, even patients who do everything right up to this point make one final mistake. One that happens not in the middle of the workout, but in the very last moments. And that mistake is exactly where some of the most preventable cardiac events occur. We started with the beginning of exercise. Now let's talk about the end, because the cool-down period, the transition from exertion back to rest, is the second major window of cardiac vulnerability, and it is almost universally mishandled. Here is what happens in your body when you exercise. Your heart is pumping at an elevated rate. Your blood vessels in your muscles have dilated massively to deliver oxygen. Your legs, in particular, are acting as a kind of second pump. The rhythmic contraction of your leg muscles is actively helping push blood back up toward your heart. Now imagine you stop suddenly. You finish your walk and sit immediately in a chair. You complete your last exercise and stand still. The moment you stop moving, your legs stop acting as that second pump. Blood pools in your lower extremities. The return of blood to your heart drops sharply. But your heart rate is still elevated from the workout. It's pumping fast into a system that is suddenly not delivering enough back. Blood pressure drops, sometimes dramatically. Dizziness follows. In some people, that combination of a rapidly beating heart and a sudden drop in cardiac filling pressure triggers a dangerous arrhythmia. This is called post-exercise hypotension, and it is responsible for a significant proportion of exercise-related collapses that happen not during the workout, but in the moments immediately after. The solution is a proper cool-down, and it is just as non-negotiable as the warm-up. After any workout, spend at least 10 minutes at a gradually decreasing intensity. If you are walking briskly, slow to a gentle stroll. If you are cycling, reduce to an easy pedal. If you are doing exercise in a pool, spend the last 10 minutes walking slowly through the water. Never sit down immediately after intense exercise. Never. Your legs need to keep moving, keep pumping blood back to your heart, while your heart rate slowly declines to its resting range. After those 10 minutes of active cool down, then sit. Drink water. Rest. Your heart has earned it. Let me bring this all together, because I want you to leave with a clear framework, not a cloud of worry. Exercise is not your enemy. Please hear me clearly on that. Exercise remains one of the most powerful things you can do for your cardiovascular health at any age, including over 60. The goal today was never to frighten you away from it. The goal was to make sure you're doing it in a way that protects you, not endangers you. Here is your safe exercise framework. 5 rules. Commit them to memory. 1. Always warm up for a minimum of 10 minutes. Gentle, gradual movement before every single session. No exceptions. 2. Learn your body's warning language. Any unusual symptom during exercise, chest pressure, jaw tightness, unexpected dizziness, strange shortness of breath, stop immediately. Rest. If it doesn't resolve in 2 to 3 minutes, call for help. 3. Exhale on every exertion. Push up from the chair, exhale. Lift the groceries, exhale. Strain at any moment, exhale. Practice this today, right now, until it becomes automatic. 4. If you want to exercise at high intensity, see your cardiologist first. Get the stress test. Know what you are working with. That knowledge is not a limitation. It is freedom. 5. Never stop abruptly. 10 minutes of active cool down after every workout. Walk it off, slow it down, give your heart time to land safely. I want to challenge you today. Not next week, not after your next checkup. Today. Choose one of these 5 habits that you recognize in yourself. Just one. And change it this week. Let that one change be the beginning. Your body has not given up on you. The fact that you watch this video, that you want to know the truth, that you care about protecting your heart, that tells me everything I need to know about you. You are exactly the kind of person who can make this change. One last thing, and I say this as a physician who genuinely cares about the people watching this channel. Everything I have shared with you today is based on current cardiovascular research and my clinical experience, but it is not a substitute for your personal medical care. Before making any significant changes to your exercise routine, especially if you have any existing heart conditions or risk factors, please speak with your own doctor or cardiologist. That is not a disclaimer. That is the most important prescription I can write. Now I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me, which of these 5 mistakes did you recognize in yourself? And more importantly, which one are you going to change first? Your heart has been working for you every single minute of every single day since before you were born. Give it the care it deserves. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself.